A snowman stranded a lonely man in a shelter. A child offered him a homemade ornament, saying, "Everyone deserves a little Christmas." That night, he hung it on a small tree and felt hope for the first time in years. Ladies and gentlemen, all the time, kindness and togetherness is the best gift that we can give, the best gift that we can give on every Christmas, on every Valentine's, and check this out, on every day. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, soy yo, tu conservative New Yorican, Peter Vasquez, coming to you aquí on this beautiful, beautiful Christmas Eve. You know something, ladies and gentlemen? There is so much doom and gloom. There is just so much arguing. There is just so much just today and tomorrow, at least maybe even for the next couple weeks, if we can. And remember, if you can do it for the next couple weeks, you can absolutely do it every day of the week for the rest of your life. But how about we set aside our disagreements? How about we set aside our political ideologies? How about we set aside our skin color, our eye colors, our hair colors, or anything that has kept us segregated and separated all this time? And just look at each other and hand each other, even if it is one of those make pretend kind of things, right? And hand someone an ornament and just simply say, "We hope you have a great Christmas." And it's okay to say Christmas. Why is it okay to say Christmas? Well, because that's what it is. It's Christmas. It's not Xmas, right? Although there is a story as to why Xmas exists, and it is appropriate. But if you can write Xmas, you can write Christmas. And if you're texting, just write the extra 4 letters, right? Why? Because tomorrow is a day that we celebrate a new beginning. Tomorrow is a day, right, where we look at our neighbors and we help them find hope. Let me say that again. We help them find hope, maybe for the first time ever. I mean, check this out. For those of you that believe in biblical types of scripture, Luke 2, verse 10 and 11 says, "But the angel said to him, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all people. Today, in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah. He is the Lord.'" And that Lord is the one that we call Jesus Christ, the Son of God, part of the Trinity, an individual that was sent, because he was an individual, a glorified individual, but he was sent here to save you and I. And ladies and gentlemen, that is cause for celebration, at least in my heart and in my home. And for those of you today, because Christmas is also a lonely time of the year for many people, right? For those of you that are sitting around wondering what your kids are doing, pick up the phone and call them. Don't send a text. Pick up the phone. Let that voice be heard. See? And for those of you who don't believe in Christmas, for whatever reasons you have, you know what? God bless you. I hope that today you can believe in something that's divine, that's greater than you, right? And you are always welcome. You are always welcome to believe in Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, today is also the Feast of the Seven Fishes, a beloved Italian-American tradition. This feast is cherished, right, by Italian Americans on Christmas Eve. It's rooted in a Southern Italian custom, right? And it's intended to celebrate the observance of the vigil, or la vigilia. I think I said that right. I speak Spanish more than I do Italian. And it symbolizes waiting for the birth of Christ. and it is marked by a bountiful feast of seafood dishes. Now check this out, right? This isn't widely known in the actual state of Italy, right? Despite how popular it is here in America for Italian Americans, the Feast of the Seven Fishes is not a recognized term in Italy. I did not know that. But Italians do observe the visual with seafood. So basically, today in the United States, we are celebrating an offshoot of that. Check this out. In 2019, a group of Rhode Island islanders broke the record for the largest feast of the seven fishes, serving over 300 pounds of seafood to the participants. So mira, you don't have to be Italian to do that. Yeah, you sure don't. But hey, if you can't eat seafood, or like many, especially in Catholicism, right? Those Catholics, because remember, most or many Italians are Catholic. I mean, considering that Rome is there, that doesn't surprise me. We don't eat meat on Fridays. So observing no eating meat the day before Christmas, oh, that's really not a bad thing. But anyways, here in the United States, we have National Eggnog Day, right? The celebration of a creamy holiday cheer. Check it out, 346-3000, ladies and gentlemen. It is the day before Christmas. Give me a call. Do you drink eggnog? Do you drink it spiked? Did you know that eggnog evolved from the posset, a medieval British drink made of hot milk, ale, and spices? I can't imagine mixing beer and milk together. But hey, Americans drink about 135 pounds of eggnog every year, right? And 90% of eggnog, when do you think it's sold? 90% of eggnog is sold in December. And this is how lazy we've gotten as Americans, by the way, right? Because eggnog, not a really difficult drink to make. But 50% of Americans prefer pre-made eggnog over homemade recipes, citing convenience. How convenient. And check this out. NASA's astronauts and eggnog have a history. In 1973, eggnog made its way to the space station, right? Becoming a holiday treat for astronauts orbiting the Earth. I thought that was a pretty nifty. Anyways, 346-3000, ladies and gentlemen. If you're out of the 585 area code, the number is 866-552-1009. Hey, maybe you could share a story of an ornament, right? Even if it's a fake one, right? Just what do you call that? Something that we kind of made up, right, to tell a story. But maybe you could tell us your story of an ornament that you shared with somebody recently, right? That brightened up their day and filled their day with hope, making them feel that they're wanted, making them feel that they're loved. Anywho, hey, the other day I gave breaking news. A truck was going down Mount Reed, hit a pedestrian bridge, knocked the bridge down. Just the update on that is the driver was ticketed. The driver of the truck was ticketed for having a load that was higher than the limit that's allowed for towing stuff, I guess. So I thought you'd want to know that. Remember, nobody hurt. But hey, if you're crossing those bridges and you see a truck coming, I want to be careful. Just kidding. I do want to take a few minutes because back in 2012, there was a few lost of life of EMS personnel, firemen. And the thing is this, right? We really need to make sure, at least in my opinion, or I'm going to make sure, that we recognize individuals that put their lives on the lines every single day to make sure that you and I can sleep easy. So a quick kudos before I go here to my son, Demo, right? Brent and his beautiful bride and the baby to come, right? Baby coming pretty soon. I'm going to be a grandfather again. But check this out, though. He's an EMS. He's a medic, right? So kudos to you. But in 2012, on Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas, right, there was a fire out in Webster. And just to remind you, right? Because we can't forget the work that our people do. But a 62-year-old individual who was provided guns by another individual who recently got out of jail, it's a topic for another day, right? Shot and killed his sister and then set fire to the house. And when the firemen showed up, 2 firemen were killed in the line of duty that evening, and 2 other firefighters were seriously injured that survived, but their lives were never the same. Now they weren't injured because of the fire per se. They were injured because this guy, and I'm not even going to give due to his name because he doesn't deserve it, right? But I am going to say the names of those that went out there, and that is Michael Chiapernati, caramba, Chiapernini. Man, where's Bob when I need him? Tomaz Kagzowaka were killed. Merry Christmas to the families. Joseph Hostetter and Ted Scardino were seriously injured. Guys, family of them guys, Merry Christmas. We are praying for you and your families every day. Scherer Spengler, the sister of this psycho person that shot and killed those 2 firefighters and injured the other 2 and killed his own sister before setting the fire. And for that family, we are going to lift them in prayer too. And on this Christmas, we wish you all a happy Christmas. I can't imagine the burden you carry. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Christmas Eve, and you are with the conservative Nuyorican Peter Vasquez aquí on the Voice of Liberty, best talk show station in the world. Don't change that dial. We'll be right back. A quick shout out to our sponsors on this beautiful Christmas Eve, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Rock Auto over on Ridge Road near Mount Reed, ladies and gentlemen, veteran owned, and Rock. Or the oh my gosh, jeepers, and Rock Collision on Henrietta Road, jeepers, Flower City Collision on East Henrietta Road. Yep, also veteran owned. And check it out. I love that. Both of those families are just great people. Those are families that understand business. They understand community. And the great thing about it for them, it isn't just about the money. It's about making sure that you have an awesome experience, that you walk away saying, not only did we receive superior service, we also received an experience that we want to tell everybody about. Flower City Collision, Rock Auto, thank you for your support. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Matthew 25, verse 35 and 36. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. See, ladies and gentlemen, that is how I want to be remembered. The day that the Lord Jesus Christ and God says, Peterson, come home. I'm cool with that. So let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about some stuff going on in New York State. See, because, at the end of the day, we got to make sure, all right, that we're paying attention, that we're using discernment, that we're employing our emotional intelligence skills so that we could see, so that we could hear, so that we could respond, and so that we could build our own entrepreneurship, our own corporation right here. Mira, aquí, right in my heart. That's where you start, right in your brain. Because like the great Frederick Douglass said, and Booker T. Washington and all those people, Dr. Martin Luther King will tell you, you can't take what's in my mind. You can't take my ability to have compassion. And I'll be damned if somebody tries to take that away from me. I live in a crazy state here in New York State. Politically, we are all in shackles. Politically, we are living, right, in a government very similar to what you see in the Hunger Games here in New York State. Oh, wait a minute. The former governor that's now suing one of the ladies that was suing him, right, for sexual harassment, right, even said that. Hey, anyways, New York counties can opt out or can opt into new short-term rental registries. Well, let's talk about short-term rental registries, right? Because this time of the year, short-term rentals become very, very, very popular as people are traveling, visiting families, just simply doing things that bring them together. And these short-term rentals, things like Airbnbs and Verbos, those are perfect for this type of travel, cheaper than a hotel, more efficient, and allows families to be able to do things like bring their 7 kids. I mean, aquí en la comunidad latina, that ain't uncommon, right? Us and our babies, right? In the Black community, listen, man, we walk out of a Pinto or, no, not a Pinto. We walk out of a Toyota, right? And you see 9 of us coming out of that thing. So travel isn't always the easiest thing for a big family. And short-term rentals work. Now let's look at it from a business side, right? Because as an owner of property that I decided here in New York State, you know what? I don't want to do long-term rentals anymore. It's too complicated at this point. And some of the properties that I'm referring to are properties that are like on the lake, right? Properties that are sitting in high demand areas like the Finger Lakes. But check this out. Hocus Pocus, right? Hocus Pocus signed the bill that was created, right, and sponsored by State Senator Michael Hinchey and Assembly Member Patricia Fay, right? And it was signed into law by Kathy Hochul. Now, the bill hopes to increase accountability and communication between short-term rentals and the community they operate in, right? Senator Hinchey says the state-level authority to bring in the Attorney General to help with enforcement, should they need it, and to have a statewide law that says, I'll tell you, sometimes these people and the language that they use, I really don't understand how they do keep getting voted in, but another conversation, right? So he says to have a statewide law that says, we're watching this landscape now. We're here to support our counties and our towns, have information that they need to actually make the best decision for them. And of course, progressive, see, this is the discernment, right? Because some of this stuff sounds good. Well, let me tell you before I tell you. in the Hudson Valley, which is seems to be the focus of some of this stuff right now, because in the Hudson Valley, Catskills, Finger Lakes area, that's kind of where this new law, it's the whole state, but they're kind of focusing there. They're focusing there because, well, I mean, Woodstock and Ulster County, for example, reported $9.8 million in revenue from 242 short-term rentals from people visiting the area. 200, 242 of them. And they created $9.8 million in revenue. I, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but when you look at a city like Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, most of the boroughs, where the income, where the money being generated, the economic policies behind it are just, well, the policies are destroying the economy, and there is no economy. So on one hand, we've got these jokers talking about we're short on housing, and this bill and this list, right, is to be able to start monitoring these areas or these short-term rentals, so that people visiting during Christmas time, for example, their families won't be able to stay, and they're doing it again under the whole umbrella of race. Oh, black and browns, they're disproportionately impacted. They're disproportionately impacted because apparently short-term rentals are pulling housing off the market. And I'm like, wow, that kind of makes sense, right? Because when you look at short-term rentals, I mean, they're expensive in some cases. Sometimes they're not, depending on the location and the type of experience you're looking for. But under under that excuse, it makes sense because they're not renting short term or long term. They're not signing year leases or 2-year leases. But these properties aren't intended for that. And I know some are purchased in urban centers and turned into Airbnbs for, again, people visiting the area. But see, my question is this. If I own a piece of property and I make the choice not to rent it, because in today's landlord-tenant relationship climate, especially under good cause eviction, a lot of tenants are going to walk away, right? And I choose not to rent it, and I'm looking at this vacant piece of property that I have, right? Or a piece of property like a lake house, for example, that I may use in the summer sometimes, and I'm like, you know what? I like using this, but I want to make some money out of it because we live in America, right? And we do have the opportunity, we all have the opportunity, regardless of skin color, to achieve prosperities of our own desire. Whether that is striving to make $1 million or whether that is striving to make $40. The choice and the description of prosperity in America belongs to us. A McGill University study found that short-term rentals removed over 7,000 units from New York City housing market, and disproportionate impact in high-demand areas like Woodstock, where 11% or as much as 11% of the housing stock is dedicated to short-term rentals. Comes to me while I'm talking, I figure, well, maybe it'll make sense to me. But how is it the state's right, or anybody's for that matter, to tell anybody that they can't use their property, their wealth, how they deem fit? Ladies and gentlemen, it is Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2024. Mira, no te vas, don't change that dial, 346-3000. I'll be right back in a couple minutes. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness is not overcome it. This highlights the hope and the light that even the small acts of kindness can bring. Ladies and gentlemen, that was John 1, verse 5. See, I guess some people listening can say, oh, you're a Bible thumper. Oh, man, I just believe in God, country, family, because the only thing that I saw change from the 80s, that I was a child growing up in one of the poorest areas, right, of this country, of this state, in that zip code that we talked about before, over in LD 22, right, over near Clinton area. That's where I grew up. But jeeper creepers, not one time did I ever experience, as a matter of fact, I didn't know I was poor. I mean, I knew there were rich people, but I didn't realize I was poor. The way these politicians try to put it now, until the politicians started telling me that I was poor. And that as a result of being poor, I was wronged. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I have a home, because owning a home, remember I told you before, my father said this: a house that you own and your right to bear arms are the two significant factors of freedom. I mean, really, you've got your prosperity and your ability to defend your country, your family, yourself, and your rights. That's the intent of the Second Amendment. So when you look at ridiculous laws like this hocus pocus just signed, boy, I'm just like totally messing up words today. But the hocus pocus signed, right? When you look at the reasons for it, yeah, you got the whole racial thing and all that other stuff, rich people bad. God forbid that you own a piece of property that you want to make money on, because according to these jokers, right, it's no longer something, it's an entitlement. Oh, if you have a home and you're not renting it to somebody who, short of a physical disability that, or a mental, that you can't go to work, short of that, you know what? Get your booty up and get your butt to work and buy a house. Then you can turn it into a short-term rental, and then you can have a piece of the pie. But check it out. This is the biggest issue. Short-term rentals, they operate, right? They operate in what towns or municipalities call zoning areas, because you got your commercial, your agriculture, your residential areas. See, and what happens with a short-term rental is that this house designated, right, for residents has now become income generating. That is the bypassing of commercial zones. And municipalities are saying, oh, heck no, you can't do that. I thought we lived in a free society. As a matter of fact, it wasn't that long ago that I heard Mr. Malik Avens, the mayor of the great city of Rochester, talking about how home ownership is building wealth, foundational to that. A right that's been taken away from every black and brown individual in this country, right, according to them. But this law suggests that that mentality of all those jokers, right, it suggests very loudly that home ownership is not prosperity. Home ownership is a right, and home ownership, well, it should just be given to you. And if you own a home, well, you know what? If you're making money out of it, shame on you. See, they created this whole housing issue in this state. The whole thing with emergency housing, the whole homeless, that's all a big facade. It is. And then they punish you and me. Ladies and gentlemen, discernment, emotional intelligence. Why? Because then you can see through that nonsense. You know, it's not enough that she's now coming after our ability to make money with our own assets, even though we pay a lot of taxes for them, in addition to the cost of doing them, right? But earlier this year, the state legislature and her, right, applied for a federal waiver to tax managed care organizations. Now you're like, oh, that's an entity, right? Well, maybe. But as we know, entities, what do they do when they get hit with another cost burden? They pass it on to you. Now, this tax structure applied to both Medicaid and commercial health. Think about that for a second. Medicaid and commercial health. So, for example, a commercial health plan would pay between $1.50 and $2 more per member per month, amounting to $18 or $24 annually per enrollee, raising about $100 million. Ah, that sounds phenomenal. I mean, California did it. And they're expected to generate 19.4 billion over its duration until December 31st, 26, right? Gary. Okay. Mhm. Absolutely. That is exciting news. And I'll tell you, Gary, I appreciate that because that's kind of like, I mean, you just gave me a little gift. One, I know that people are listening. I know that people are responding to the news that we're putting out there and at least paying attention. So I appreciate that, Gary. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, that shows a lot of, for the work that Bob Savage and Bob D'Angelo do over at Radio Ranch. Yeah. 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 Gary, I appreciate the call, sir. I really do. You know something, Gary? I truly appreciate the work that you do because you do it for you don't ask for anything in return. Wow. Yes, you did. All the time. Gary, thank you. Thank you so much for the call. I hope you have a phenomenal Christmas, you and your family. See, I'll be talking to you soon. Ladies and gentlemen, mira, no te vayas, don't go nowhere. We'll be right back right here in the Next Step Show on the Voice of Liberty. See? Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Next Step Show. Seeing a shout out, seeing a big Merry Christmas to our sponsors, Flower City Collision. Thank you, sir, over on East Henrietta Road, right near Jefferson. Rock City Auto and Service. See, Merry Christmas to you guys. both veteran-owned, Rock City Auto and Service on Ridge Road West over by Mount Reed. Check them out. You can find yourself service with a smile and integrity. Go figure. Hey, real quick, Joe from Allegheny, thank you for the message. He asked, does one have to be agnostic to drink eggnog? Interesting question. No, I think somebody just needs to live in a free society and be able to exercise their rights and be able to go out and buy and produce and create things that they want and then share them with others. And guess what? Maybe even make a profit or two or three or maybe even a few million if they're fortunate enough. Because bills like this whole thing to eliminate, right? Startups like single family residences or jeepers. These rules to dismantle things like short-term rentals, taking away your right. Well, I think I'm ready for Christmas. Taking away your right to do what you're going to do with your money is just, well, you know what? It needs to be brought back. And with this whole thing was adding more taxes to this already burdensome and extremely expensive health system that we got, especially for commercial users. It makes no sense to me. It's actually going to cause more issues, right? Check this out, ladies and gentlemen, right? Medicaid is one thing. Because in order for you to qualify for Medicaid, you probably don't have the income to pay for much of anything else. And like what we're seeing in this victimhood mentality, this whole big dependency that the government is trying to create, you don't really pay, even co-pays, under some of those things, right? This tax is doing nothing but costing you and me more money. And if they think for 1 second that, this whole we're just going to tax more money so we could fill up the Medicaid types of funds, which is really what they're trying to do. Maybe they should start considering why. Why are they depleted to begin with? See, no one ever asks those questions in government. They don't look at the whole system like you and I probably would. I'd say for profit, but nonprofits got to do it too. We don't look at a system and say, shoot, we got to go and charge our customers more money so that we can get more of something else, or so that we can meet this plan to do something that people don't really care about or want, right? No, you know what we do? We look at how is our current spending and where can we save there first? Where do we cut cost? Now, check this out. Rochester Regional Health, they got the point. Right? Because they are implemented 100% prepayment policy for outpatient services. So you go in, right? You go in for an outpatient service. I don't know what, let's say, what could it be? What's an outpatient service? Well, you know what? Some surgeries are outpatient that come with a high cost outside of your deductible, right? Because remember, getting those insurance plans like we used to have before, where you paid $25 and your insurance pretty much covered everything else, kind of scenario, right? Those things are so expensive that regular Joes like us, it's almost unaffordable, right? And if you have a job that doesn't pay you significantly high, or you work for the government, you are most likely going to have an insurance that has a high deductible to it. And under that policies, right, a lot of hospitals, a lot of clinics would allow you to go out and do your procedures, and then they'd send you a bill, right? But under this new policy, patients must pay the full cost determined by their insurance company prior to the surgery, right? Obviously, they got to have alternatives in there. So, for example, they'll allow something like a 25% upfront and then enroll in a no-interest payment plan. So, for example, if a patient owes $2,000, they can either pay the full amount or 500 up front and the remainder thereafter. See, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is where discernment's important. Because if you buy into this nonsense that's coming down from the buffoon in the White House, hocus pocus, right? Even these jokers at the county trying to tell you, buy into our plan. It'll be great. It'll be fine. And it's kind of like, oh, these things sound good. If you go get health insurance, if you go out to the hospital and you get a bill for an outpatient or inpatient service, you should pay it. But see, this is the problem, is that the only thing that this is going to impact is you and me. And not because we're rich, but because we decided to get up in the morning and go to work. $400,000 in unpaid bill. And I'll share a story with you. And I'll save the names to protect the innocents. But I know a business owner that at one point, this individual said to me, right? I guess I'm the jerk, I'm the mean guy. But this individual said to me, Peter, I don't want you to tell me how to run my business. If I want to give somebody an installment agreement or a payment plan or a buy now, pay later kind of option, I just want to do it. Because, again, when it comes to business, listen, you pay for your business, right? And I said, listen, it's your business. You do you. You brought me on to help you. I'll follow your guidelines. When their first year was over, and about $98,000 later, this individual came back and said, maybe you were right. And see, the thing is this, it's a fact. Not that everybody is like this, but a good portion of people, unfortunately, are like this, right? When you don't hold them accountable, when you don't make them, right, and do something, they won't do it. And I kept telling this individual, you squeeze them and tell them what the bill is, they'll pay it beforehand. Well, the second year, they implemented that. You get no service until you pay it, the bill. Yeah, and not like we wouldn't consider helping somebody, right? But it was definitely an eye-opener for this individual. Although they never recouped the $98,000, right? They never allowed themselves to fall into that again. I've got about a minute left, and I do want to highlight, because this is Christmas, great things that are happening, right? Check this out. Rochester Community rallies around the mother whose holiday gifts and car was stolen. Yep, a Kia, I believe. This is a Grinch story here in Rochester, and the family, right, after this was put out there, came together. And I say the family, I'm talking about the community. Now, this was a family whose all 7 kids have a 90% attendance. Let me say that again. 7 kids, 90% attendance in school. But the community came together and they started helping them. They started wrapping gifts labeled for these children, right? They started praying for this family. And today, this evening, Santa will be able to visit those children. And even though some jackbooty somewhere with no morals, perpetuated by these politicians in this state, stole her car, we had her back. And let's not forget, Hoco grants clemency to 22 people. Fortunately for that, I didn't see any criminals there. Ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas to you. I'll see you the day after tomorrow. And check it out. Be a leader, be a leader, be a leader, and God bless these United States of America, and Mira, always be the voice of liberty.